And we're back to IGN's E3 live show. Don't forget to check out all the latest E3 updates at e3.ign.com. Up next, Alma is back and she is pissed. Like you guys were expecting anything else. We're now going to take a look at the supernatural shooter F.E.A.R 3, so you may want to hold on to a teddy bear or something.
And really, what better way to start off the last day of E3 than the further adventures of a pregnant undead girl. So, F.E.A.R 3. I was a big fan of 1 and 2, and this is going to wrap up the story, right?
We're going to do some interesting things for you.
Okay.
I mean, we're definitely taking from the hallmarks of the F.E.A.R franchise and basically starting 9 months later. 9 months is really important in this game.
Yes, if you played to the end of F.E.A.R 2, 9 months is very important.
Very important. So, almost pregnant. We know that she's pregnant. We know that we're not exactly sure what it is she's going to have. Everybody's pretty scared, and we find that in this game, Point Man and F.E.A.R are now working their way through the space, basically heading towards their mother.
Now, Point Man and F.E.A.R, they were the main characters of the first game.
Correct.
And it turns out F.E.A.R did not die at the end of the first game.
Well, he kind of died. Now he's a ghost. So what we wanted to do here was, we really wanted to explore the franchise and really understand where F.E.A.R came from. And for us, F.E.A.R was all about combat, great storytelling, and horror. But for us, as we evolved the franchise, we want to say, okay, where do we want to take this? For us, it was co-op. That was a great opportunity.
Okay.
So we saw F.E.A.R as the prime candidate for somebody to be a very unique experience when we talk about divergent co-op. We wanted to make sure that the players had the opportunity, if they played the F.E.A.R franchise, or any shooter for that matter, to be able to pick up the controller as Point Man and have a great time. Understand it, understand slow-mo. But if they decided to play in co-op, that they'd be able to experience F.E.A.R, a completely unique character with a brand new suite of powers.
Right, so it looks like Point Man concentrates on weapons, and then we've seen F.E.A.R though, with the red stuff around him, and he's throwing something.
He's got psychic power,
okay,
basically, and he has a stun attack, and he has a suspend attack where he's basically siphoning from the enemies. But then he's got something pretty cool that he can do. He can actually possess the enemies, and for a short amount of time, take over their powers and use their own weapons against them.
So even though F.E.A.R was a bad guy, now he's your partner in co-op.
He's definitely your partner, but the question is how do you want to play? Do you want to play it so that you're cooperating with your brother in that uneasy alliance? Or do you want to pander to F.E.A.R's personality? You decide that as you're walking through the space and seeing things that Point Man can't see, you decide not to tell him. And you discover new spaces and you level up somewhat on your own. It's definitely that uneasy alliance.
So you're doing something different, because I've noticed in a lot of co-op games I play, one player's like, I'll cover this hall, you cover that hall, we'll meet again in 2 minutes. So you're trying to do something different here.
Absolutely, absolutely. What we really wanted to do was make sure that the players had a unique experience. And the way we do that is, obviously, the two main characters are very different in terms of their play styles, in terms of their personalities, but also we wanted to make sure that the game was different every time you played it. So we have 2 new systems that we're really excited about in terms of being able to make that replayability experience different. The first is generative scare. So if you go into a space and you're confident, oh, I played the game, I know where I'm going to be attacked from. You don't know where you're going to be attacked from. It's going to be different. And secondly is generative scare. So that you've got this sense that the space is, as you go through it, scary, but you're not sure how or where it's going to be scary. And those events can change.
And I think that was one of the critical things from the previous F.E.A.R games. The horror wasn't just blood, gore, spines, skulls. It was just what was happening just outside the frame, and so you're keeping that kind of psychological horror.
Yeah, we definitely went back to the F.E.A.R 1 and looked at how they did a lot of their scare moments, and really sort of used that as the hallmark so that we could see those moments where Alma's coming at you and it's really creepy. We want to make sure that our characters showcased a lot of that same horror.
Now we're on a bridge level.
Yes.
And apparently there is something that is happening to the city at this point tied to Alma.
Right, so what's happening is that Alma's having these contractions, and as she does, these contractions create massive rifts that sort of work their way through your gameplay space. What we see here is that F.E.A.R and Point Man are working their way across the bridge, fighting a new AI called the Phase Caster, who has the ability to send these soldiers out by phasing them in behind you. And we just see now that the guys have gotten into a mech. A big part of F.E.A.R. We want to make sure that we do it right. We bring mechs back. The mechs are a little different this time. We want to make sure they're not just a palate cleanser. We want there to be that risk and reward, that tension. So the mechs are very powerful, but you have to be very careful how you use them. And you can use them in co-op if you want.
Can both players get into mechs?
Yeah, we want to make sure. If we made a game where you couldn't get in if you were F.E.A.R, people would be pretty upset. So we want to make sure that both players could do that.
So some of the other enemies that we're seeing, there's the phase casters, and are other monsters and apparitions coming back, or we got different ones?
Every time that you see one of those rift events happens, one of those contractions happens, it's the harbinger of these sort of paranormals. And the guys have already fought through and fought some scavengers. But then Armacam is also sending down their grade A troops, right?
Okay.
The phase caster to come in. And the key thing that we're also doing is we're adding a cover system into the game where we're taking sort of a classic third-person cover and applying it to first-person. So that the guys can actually, as you're working your way through the level, we've got phase casters that can send AI in past you and around you, and you've got the ability to go into cover, switch in one fluid moment, 180, and go to guns on. Spectacular.
So are all the replicas, are they coming back, or have they kind of been phased out?
We kind of mined the AI from the previous game and looked at it, and we wanted to offer our own evolution of that.
Okay.
So we've got some things, some tricks that we're going to be bringing into that. The scavengers are new, the phase casting technology is new, and then every time you see that paranormal shift, you get something good.
Excellent. So we're about how far into the game here?
This is probably pretty close to the end, about 2/3 of the way through.
But we're not going to see any spoilers, right? Yeah. Okay. Because after the ending of F.E.A.R 2, I cannot wait to see how this one wraps up.
What the guys are doing here is they're working their way across the bridge, and Armacam is sort of suffering from the exact same paranormal things that are going in. They previously had the bridge down as they're searching for these survivors that have survived the blast. And what they're doing now is they're sending in their troops to basically clear you off the bridge.
Okay. So now, if Paxton gets into a mech, can he still use his psychic powers, or is he traditional guns now?
What we really wanted to do when you get into the mech is that Paxton, when he takes over somebody, he basically has to get inside somebody's body in order to pilot the mech. And once you're inside that body, you pretty much are that character. You have all of their powers. Same as the mech driver.
So when you play co-op, do you have a favorite? Do you want to be Point Man? Do you want to be Fettel?
I love playing as Point Man, no question, because I love the idea that if you played F.E.A.R and you played shooters, you're going to be successful. But there's no question the star of this game is Fettel. There's no question. He's just a boatload of fun to play.
Are there any scares that people should be on the lookout for? I mean, not to spoil one, but what's a really unique lead up to F.E.A.R that you're doing, to a scare that you're doing?
We've got another demo that we're running about the village section, basically. So there's this really cool section in there where we see a brand new character who can attack from any angle, and I can't really tell you too much about him, but he's super spooky. He comes out of nowhere, he can climb on walls, and he just scares the crap out of you.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming in this morning and showing us the game. And back to you, Jess.
Thanks a bunch, guys. Nothing like a little F.E.A.R to wake you up in the morning. Up next, it's time to don your Assassin's gear and take to the rooftops with your friends. Join us for a look at Assassin's Creed Brotherhood multiplayer.